Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. We're here to do some Q&A, answering some questions that people have asked about me and my sobriety journey. And we're going to be touching on those. Feel free to comment and we'll get to them if you have any more that aren't answered. Give a few minutes here for anybody that might have me ping to notify. But how's everybody doing today? I hope it's well. Hmm. Let's see. We'll give a couple minutes here before we get started just to see if anybody has more questions. You can put them in the chat. I hope everybody is doing well this morning. Had kind of a late morning. Hey, how's it going, Speedy Boy? Yeah, I completely spaced out daylight savings time overnight and ended up sleeping an extra hour here. Let's see. Hey, John, how's it going? It's good to see you too. I actually have a Chuck Norris joke page pulled up just in case you happen to stop by. Mark, I will not be doing magic streams. That was it's a bygone time, 5 years ago. Hey, Mother Nerdlings. It's good to see you too. I actually have a lot of your questions on my list to go through today. Let's see. The background of my dogs and how old they were when I got them. So Aegis, I got as a puppy. I got him as a pre-order before the litter was even born. And I actually circumstantially got him as, let's see, let me actually pull this up so I don't lose where I'm talking about. This one. I ordered him as a present, which I have since come to never do. I don't really agree with that mentality, but at that stage of my life, my ex and I had a dog pass away, and I ordered him as kind of a surprise Christmas present. I booked him in September. We broke up in October. I forgot I had ever ordered the dog. They called me on Christmas Eve to say, "Hey, are you going to come get this dog that you've already paid for?" Yeah, I will. And I went and picked him up. I had him for 3 days before he actually fell down the stairs in my cabin where I was living, and he ended up breaking his leg. So he had to have two surgeries. His growth plate needed to be reattached and stabilized. And he spent the first 6 months of his life with me in a cast. He's got pretty severe social anxiety because of it, having to be kenneled at from 8 weeks to 6 months old. And he really doesn't like when dad's not around now. But he'll be 8 this year. I got him in 2016. And then the other 3 dogs of the pack, Jupiter, Callisto, and Trip, are actually my current partners. They joined when we joined households. And I think they're around the same age. Trip's a little bit older, but Jupiter and Callisto are within a year on either side of Aegis. So it's good to have they'll pack together. It's been nice for him. He actually is doing well with his socializing now that he's got more dogs around the house. Yeah, so that's their background. Cynthia, thank you so much. I'm glad that you've been following along, and I appreciate the kindness. I'm doing my best to be proud of me as well. I appreciate that immensely. Yeah, Mother of Nerdlings, I have a lot of your questions here. Actually, you have some pretty good ones. It's pretty good. We'll actually do some of those next. Yeah, it definitely gets crazy having 4 dogs around. If you ever thought you could have 4 dogs and not have dog hair woven into everything you own, you're wrong. That's not how it works. So I'll put this one back up. Let's see. So I've got my community post pulled up here on the other screen. We'll go through some of these questions here. What made me decide to start a YouTube channel? So I originally started this YouTube channel in not the best intentions. I was writing a book and I wanted to form a social following. So when I did finish my book, I could potentially have someone to market it to. And that was not necessarily where my goals landed with the channel. I posted a few of my poems as spoken word, and they did okay. I mean, they did better than any of my more recent posts, but I think that's because I was funneling stuff from my Facebook page, BYG Poetry, over here pretty aggressively. But I originally started it so I'd have a spoken outlet for my poems, and that's just not where I landed. I had the platform already, and I had a few followers on here, so that'll segue into the next question: what made me decide to start doing my sobriety check-ins with YouTube Shorts? That is a result directly of me having a really hard time with accountability. The first week, I almost caved so many times, and I needed to publicize it for me. Like, I wanted to go back and have myself to watch in those moments, because I was so happy on like the 8th day, like day 8, when I posted my first sobriety check-in. I was so ecstatic. It was like I'd made it to a week, and it was uh, overwhelming almost. Like, that video is so bad and so poorly made, but it was made, and that matters a lot to me. um I started doing them to hold myself accountable, and that's kind of where that started. I never expected this positivity or outpouring of support. Like, that has been the kindness has been very overwhelming and very humbling. Like, my channel has started to kind of take off because of these sobriety check-ins, and trying to not revel in that and trying to focus on the poetry side of my content as much as I can. And like, sobriety through poetry has kind of taken over my goal here, and it's been a good thing. That's why I've started doing the sobriety check-ins via Shorts. It's for my own accountability. Let's see. Yeah, almost there. I've got another like 10 days. Well, 11, I suppose. 89. Yeah, but it's been a good time. Uh, those days are still kind of hard for sure. Every once in a while, they sneak up on you, and sobriety is very strange like that. It kind of comes out of nowhere, where you'll have moments of weakness. It's like, I can cave right now, but I can't, because I've got so much riding on myself and on these sobriety community that is kind of being cultivated as a result of my content, it means a lot to me. Like, thank you all for being a part of that. Let's see. Okay, next question. This one comes from Lauren. So I have a question for you. I was wondering, do you find it harder to socialize, make friends, and overall blend into society now? I think that comes from mostly my friends. Yeah, Speedy Boy, you can absolutely post questions here in the comments, and I will pull the comment up on screen and do it live here. I have a few that are from the community posts, but feel free to ask questions in the comments as well, or in this, and I'll pull it up in the chat. Sorry, I was wondering, do you find it harder to socialize, make friends, and overall blend into society? A lot of my friend group was already digital. I did a lot of my drinking alone at my computer desk, and that was not necessarily the healthiest. Harder to socialize. I have experienced more the other way. Like, people don't want to socialize with you when you're sober. Like, the people that I used to hang out with on a daily basis when I was like, I work out of town, so I would spend a lot of time at the bar after work because there's nowhere else to go in the place that I work. And people don't want to hang out with you. They get weird, they get cagey, and you don't get invited to things. This has been my experience, and that's fine. Like, if they were only hanging out with me because of my consumption and because of my willingness to embrace and commiserating with them, that I don't need to associate with them anymore. Like, that's fine. I have made efforts to connect and talk to people in a sober sense, and if they don't want to hang out with me because of my sobriety, I don't feel like there's any loss there. As far as blending into society, I've had a very hard time like being proud of being sober, and like encapsulating and like being loud about it. And these check-ins have kind of encouraged me to do that. Other than my friends occasionally asking me like, "Oh, what day are you on?" Like I don't go blast on social media about my sobriety. Like I do it on YouTube Shorts, and that's kind of it. I don't talk about it on most of my other platforms. Or to people that I meet, I'm never going to be the one to corner someone at a bar and be like, "You should quit drinking." That's not my role, and I'm not trying to blend in that way, and I'm not trying to convert anyone to sobriety. I think that's a decision you have to make yourself, and you have to want to do it personally. I don't think that you can be convinced until you are ready to convince yourself or ready to take that step. So I haven't really worried about that so much. But with that, the other side of that question, though, make friends. There are so many sober communities that exist, and they have their own views and they have their own viewpoints. But there are places for you to make friends while you're pursuing sobriety. It might not be where you'd think to look, but book clubs, like churches have meetings. Like if you go to AA, if you're in one of those programs, like that's not what I do, but they do exist. There are groups for those people. And I think that it's good to find a group of your people. If you can find a group that has a common goal or a common desire, like you can make friends there. And it might not be what you're used to, but it is something that you can do. And I think exists for a very good reason. Let's see. Thank you, John. I appreciate that a lot. Speedy Boy says, "When did you start writing, and do you plan on publishing your poetry?" It's amazing, by the way. I actually have a book. I released a book in December of last year. It is on Amazon Live, or you can email me, bygpoetry@gmail.com, and I will get in contact with you about. These are my first edition copies. It's a little tiny chapbook. It's like 33 pages, but it is my compilation that goes through my therapy and my substance abuse. I'm working on my second book now, but yeah, I need to be better about publicizing that. Like, yeah, I've published a book. It's on Amazon. It's I feel bad for plugging it a lot because I don't want to do it to make $1 billion. Like my goal for Rise, like this book, I wrote with the intent goal of getting it in the hands of recovery rooms. Like I order probably 50 copies of this myself every time I get paid for my job, and I've been donating them to places around my community because I want this book to be in the hands of people that might resonate with the words, because it's in 3 sections. It goes through my substance abuse, like my lows and my downtimes after I started therapy, and the last part of it is just coming to terms with healing and like being okay loving yourself and being okay admitting that things are hard, and that's you're not alone with it. Like um yeah, I maybe if people want to stick around, I can do like a little reading from it too. I have a few readings posted on the channel, but I can do another one here live too. But yeah, I'm working on a second book that I hope to have come out this fall, August, September, somewhere in that time frame as well. That should be. But yeah, I started writing when I was 12, 13. Um, I had a pretty broken childhood as far as that goes, like broken home, divorce, the things that happen that kind of shape how you process trauma and how you process things that have happened to you. My mom worked 3 jobs when I was a kid, was never home. I spent a lot of time at my grandma's house. And when my grandma passed away, I had very little home life that wasn't work based or financial stress based. So I did a lot of writing. I wrote a lot of poetry to get the thoughts out of my head. And that's kind of a thing that I've continued on throughout life. And I had a little bit of a stopgap where I didn't write for a couple of years other than jotting things down in like the notes app on my phone. But it's now that I've started writing again since my incident, like my DUI, where I was having a very hard time. I've started writing again, and I've written pretty consistently since then. And it's just kind of been a continuation of that. Thank you, Mother. I appreciate that. Mother. Is it Mother of Nerdlings? Like, I just feel like I need to say the whole thing. Other if I'm just addressing you as Mother, it might feel a little weird, and I don't want it to come across that way. Let's see. We have a Discord church specifically for marginalized folks. If anyone is in need, sorry, not an ad. You just mentioned churches and such. No, that's absolutely fine. Like, you're not linking anything. That's a totally acceptable plug. What do I do for a living? So I work for the Alaska Railroad. I am a signal maintenance technician. I'm kind of a glorified low voltage electrician. I work remotely. I work kind of in Denali National Park, maintaining railside equipment. I make sure that the little detectors that measure the temperature of rail wheels as they're going down the tracks don't get too hot. There's dragging equipment detectors. There's railroad crossings. I make sure those are operating the way they're supposed to, and I go and test them and make sure that cars they're gonna have proper warning time. But basically, a low voltage electrician. I make sure the electrical systems of railroad safety equipment is working the way it's supposed to. That's, that's a very good point, John. Yeah, hangovers are definitely a good motivator to stop drinking for sure. Hey, Pizza Dave. Good afternoon. I hope you're having a good day. Thank you for stopping by. Oh, that's okay. Autocorrect gets me all the time too. Let's see. I'll pop this one back up. No, I appreciate everyone stopping by here. Let's see. Mother of Nerdlings has another question. What is my favorite meal? It's very simple. 2 eggs over easy with a half serving of chorizo. I will eat that for every meal. If I had the grocery budget and the time, I would cook that exclusively. I love eggs and chorizo, but there's not much I won't eat, honestly. But as far as favorite meal, like, I'll pick it over anything else. It's 2 eggs and some chorizo. That is my go-to. Let's see. Um, did I have other pets before the dogs I have now? I did. I've had a lot of animals in my life, actually. I was a farm kid. My grandma had a pretty big farm. We had a lot of chickens, geese, ducks, goats, pigs, cows, and a lot of dogs, a lot of farm dogs running around. My own dogs, the longest ones I've had are Aegis, and I've had him, it'll be 8 years this year. But I've had a pretty unfortunate go of dogs in my life. I have had many dogs that, well, not many. I've had 2 dogs that didn't make it into a year. They got tularemia. I don't know if people are familiar with that, but it is a disease that can be caught if they are eating rabbits, which I was living off grid. Rabbits were a pretty big part of my diet at that time, and I didn't know that it existed. So I endangered the lives of my dogs out of ignorance and did not know that that was a thing. So that was a very emotional learning experience. I had a brother sister pair of Akita Chows, Bonnie and Clyde, and they were some of the coolest dogs. Had them, and then I've had a few other dogs in my life. That one of them my ex rehomed while I was at work because he only chewed up her things, and so I came home from work and my dog was gone. I don't know where he went. I don't know where he was rehomed to. He was not in the pound. He was not in anywhere that I checked for him. So I'm not entirely sure what happened to him. And my dog from high school, who was named Clipper, I ended up living with my mom. When I was bouncing around, moving around for work, I was very, very on the go and had a very hard time housing him. So he got to have a very happy retirement with my mom. Let's see. Do I write my poetry when I'm feeling at my lowest, or is it very much inspirational? It kind of depends, John. I write poetry for any of my big emotional moods. Like, I can be in a super happy mood and I'll do some writing. I'll be in a bad headspace and write to get it out. Excuse me. If something has happened that day that is kind of weighing on me or I've been dwelling on it, I'll be thinking about that a lot of the day. And when I'll get off work, I need to put it on paper so it just gets out of my head. So it kind of is a mixed bag for when I do my writing, but I try to write every day, even if it's 4 lines or 6 lines or 8 lines. Like I try to put something down on paper every day just to make sure that I'm making use of that art or make use of my equipment that I've invested in. Like I have a stack of notebooks, I have a laptop, and I have this desktop that I'm on now. I try to make use of the stuff that I have there. So I try to write a little bit every day. Let's see. No, that's good. Yeah, let's pop this one back up. Oh, let's see. I've got another question here. Oh, there was a question here that it looks like the comment has been deleted now, so I won't delve into that one a whole lot. I hope that everything is okay. I won't say the user, but I will answer the question because I remember kind of what it said. It says, when you started, did you have a sponsor? I did not have a sponsor when I first started pursuing sobriety. I kind of tortured myself about it for the first few days. I got off work after a particularly bad day. Um, okay, let's preface this a little bit. The night before, I had gotten home to my camper somehow. I don't remember how I got there. Uh, I woke up the next morning and my boots were in the right place, my keys were in the right place, all of my things that I come home and take out of my pockets and put around were right where they should be, where I put them every time. And I had no recollection of them being put there. I couldn't remember how I got home, but I was in such a headspace and such a state of muscle memory, and I had been doing it so frequently that it didn't matter. I could come home blacked out and put things right where they needed to be, and they would be where I wanted them to be in the morning. And that was one of my final like wake up calls. It's like, hey, like I don't remember doing this. Like I can't keep doing this. I can't. So that day, that work day, I sat in my truck after work and I wrote myself a letter to drunk me. Like I wrote a letter kind of detailing all the things that I hated about my drinking and all the things that alcohol's done to me and all of the things that I wanted to achieve and how sobriety would help me do that and how alcohol was never going to help me with those goals. And I wrote this letter and I was not kind to myself in the letter. I wrote it in a very bad headspace, so I kind of drug myself through the dirt a lot. And I think I needed that in that moment from myself, because when I went into my camper, I knew I had a case of beer sitting on the floor, and I went into my camper and I taped that letter to the top of the box. So I didn't necessarily have a sponsor for those first few days, but I had that letter. And I told myself if I wanted to have a drink, I needed to read that letter and still want it. I needed to read it and still want to have a beer afterwards. And that worked for me. That got me through those first few days. Like that kind of was my sponsor in the first week. And after I started posting the sobriety check-ins on YouTube via shorts, that became my sponsor. I didn't want to let anyone down who'd commented on that. I never expected it to have any traction, but once people started commenting, it became this accountability that wasn't just me anymore. It wasn't just me holding myself accountable. It's kind of the subconscious, like these people are invested in this and I don't want to let anybody down. And the first internet troll that said you'll drink again, it was over. Like I'm no. Mm-mm. And that's not really fair because I still have had the urges and I definitely see that I could cave if given the opportunity, and the opportunity exists. But if I ever let myself cave, the opportunity is there. But so not so much a sponsor as my writing has kind of been my sponsor, and that's the premise of why I've rebranded my channel like Sobriety Through Poetry, and I do a lot of sobriety writing and inspirational writing. I try to give myself that positive outlet because that letter that I wrote for myself was so negative to start with and it was so dragging. But before I was going to drink a beer, I was going to read that letter and still want it. And I never wanted it after I read the letter afterwards. So That was my sponsor. Let's see. Pizza Day wants to know, how long did you live off grid? I lived off grid just shy of 4 years. I'm talking I had a house that we built from the ground up with Home Depot lumber, or actually Northern Lumber was the company, but a lot of the parts are just Home Depot, Northern Lumber. We built it. My ex and I built it in my dad's front yard. We put the panels for the house on a trailer, hauled the trailer out to the property, and stood it up and started staying in there. Um, Total time like living in it was I think a little over 3 years, but total time kind of getting it processed and getting that accomplished was just shy of four. And it was convenient. I worked at the end of the road where we lived. The driveway was like a mile and a half back into the woods, and then I worked at the end of my driveway basically, so I didn't have to go anywhere. It was a simple life, and it was very good. I am glad that I have the experience of doing it. I never want to do it again. If I do try to do the off-grid lifestyle again, I'll definitely want to have at least some amenities. 'Cause hauling water at 40 below sucks. Like, there's no polite way to say that. It sucks. It's hard. John wants to know, what is my favorite music? It is a shuffle at best. I go through phases of different tunes, from pop to rock, folk, rap. Every once in a while, I get into a few people that are like very lyrical with the rap. I don't necessarily appreciate a lot of the music that you can't understand what they're saying. Screamo is not something that I usually listen to, but I listen to a lot of different music, and I don't necessarily have a favorite specifically. But no, good question, because it like right now, like this background track that's playing is just something in the stream software. Like, I didn't select this necessarily. I mean, I picked it, but it was from a pretty limited list. But Speedy Boy wants to know, will there be a 100-day special? I honestly don't have any plans for a 100-day special. I've been kind of tossing around a couple of ideas for having another one of these style videos and kind of addressing the channel and talking about the counting and like keeping track of the days, because I do it because it's helped me. And the number one negative comment on my channel, I'm sure you've all seen, if you've been here for any length of time, you've seen my default response that kind of auto populates when people say stop counting in the same comment. um there's this brick of text that I've written as a response to that, and it's just like, hey, like, I'm doing what works for me. Maybe you don't need to count. And I understand that's been very very popularized, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I wanted to kind of talk to the community about that and see if the counting is helping other people, or if it's more what's the word, not ego based, but I've gotten kind of some mixed bag results. The overwhelming side is like, keep doing this, that you're helping me, you've inspired me. Like, I've had a lot of comments like that, and those mean a lot. Like, that helps me personally in my journey. But I was going to try and maybe have a conversation about that and see what we're going to do for the 100 days. I thought about like making a joke video of being like, if this gets X amount of whatever, I'll shave my beard, but I don't really want to do that. Like, it seems kind of scammy and grubby to me. Like, I'm not trying to go viral. I'm not trying to do any of that stuff. So I'm not sure. If do you have any ideas for a 100-day special? What videos would people like to do? Because I'm more than willing to. I mean, I'll try that mountain again. I can maybe hike somewhere else and read a piece of poetry. Maybe do a special writing. Like, I'm up to do stuff. Absolutely. If there's any ideas, I appreciate you, John. Thank you very much. But yeah, I don't know. As far as, I haven't really thought about a 100-day special a whole lot, like with any depth. Like, I've thought about it for sure, but I haven't outlined anything or made any plans. to do it by any means. Let's pop that one back up. But I'm out of questions on the community post now. So I think if there's any other questions that you guys have that you'd like answered, if you can think of, feel free to post them. I'll hang out and just do some talking here for a little while. It's been super nice having people here to talk to. That's awesome, Pizza Dave. Congratulations, by the way. That's a very cool achievement. Let's see. Shelby P. What is something you've become most proud of yourself for doing? What is something you've become most proud of yourself for during this process? Let's see. What is something I've become most proud of myself for? It's been kind of a mixed uh, emotion for me. Like feeling prideful about what I'm doing is something that like I'm very proud of what I'm accomplishing. But what am I the most proud of? Like holding myself accountable, like being able to publicize what so many people keep to themselves and struggle with, and it's hard. Like that's something that I didn't really put any stock in, for how much that takes out of somebody and how much you can influence other people without really meaning to, or without knowing it. But uh I'm proud of myself for taking the steps to do it, I suppose. Like that's I look at what's happened in the channel over the last 2 months, and like the people that have come out of the woodworks to be supportive, and it's like that would have never happened if I didn't post these and if I didn't publicize it. And I don't know everyone, or even if anyone. I mean, there are people that it has helped. People have expressed that and commented on it and are very kind about it, but I don't know the depth of that, and I'll never know how far or just how much someone else has been helped by it. But people have talked about it, and I'm very proud of that happening. So I guess if I have to pick something to be the most proud of, it's posting my sobriety in a public setting and having a communicative discussion about it. I think that's something that I feel very proud about. I'm proud for being able to be present in my partner's life in a way that I was previously unable to do. Um, my whole work day, my whole week, my work week, everything revolved around what I was doing after work. And it didn't usually involve staying connected to my senses. Or the weekend, if I wasn't on call, yeah, let's go to Costco, get a couple bottles, and just let loose, do nothing, exist, turn my brain off. And I don't do that anymore. I try very hard to be present for my family and for my friends. I'm proud of that. Good question. Thank you. Speedy Boy wants to say, when did you start hiking and what was the most difficult one? The most difficult hike I have ever done was Mount Alice in Seward, Alaska. It's where I grew up, down in Seward, and I started hiking very young. There's hiking trails all over Seward, but Mount Alice is probably the biggest one that I've hiked. We went in springtime, so the snow was kind of soft and wet. Excuse me. And very like post holy. You had to punch your feet through, and snow was like knee deep for most of the hike. And that was definitely super, super hard. But I was young and very much in my prime, and it was a very cool experience. We were up on the mountaintop, and it was just white. It was just snow as far as you could see, like the kind of stuff where like depth perception gets distorted a little bit. And we saw a black dot in the distance. It's like, is that a bear? Like, is it a black bear over there? Like, holy crap, they're up here really high. And we were walking towards it to go try to get a better look at it. And what it ended up being was a ptarmigan's eye. So the ptarmigan is a bird that goes stark white in the wintertime, and their eye is black. And it was actually 20 feet away from us. Like, we walked towards it not knowing it was there that close, and it flew away and scared the crap out of all of us. But that was a cool hike. I still remember that very vividly. It was very memorable. Uh, let's see. John says, I notice I get defensive on your behalf. I know you don't need anybody to defend you. No, so funny story. I try very hard to treat the people that come to my posts with the intention of being trolls. with kindness. Like, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and if they don't re-engage with me, or if they don't be shitty to me, I leave the comment there. Like, it's fine. If somebody wants to go out of their way to be reductive of somebody else and basically mock someone's sobriety, you're off my channel. I'm going to ban you. Like, I don't have time for that. I don't want it. And I was going to go do that to one of those posts, and I saw that it had like 5 comments on it. So I opened it up, and I saw the community of you all that have basically piled on, and I screenshot it and I showed it to my partner. I said, "Look at this! Like, my community is so awesome. Like, this is so wholesome, and I would never expect it." Like, I appreciate how much the community advocates for people being kind to each other on my page. Like, absolutely. And I don't necessarily care about you guys defending me. Like, I will do that myself, but seeing other people be shitty to other people on my page and jumping into their defense, that's awesome. Like, I appreciate you guys so much. Chuck Norris denied your request to shave the beard. He will not be happy. Let's see. Did you know that Chuck Norris once sliced through a knife with melted butter? It's pretty talented. I don't know if I could do that one. Let's see who posts this back up. If there's any other questions, feel free to post them, everybody. This has been super awesome. I'm so happy that this is going so well. Let's see. Let me do a scroll through and see if I missed any questions here. Off grid. Today's in Vermont. Plug it. We want to see it. Oh, I missed that one. I guess I did the hold up. I don't have a link to post. I probably could, actually. Let's see. Hopefully I'm not screen sharing. This would be embarrassing. Let me post this up. New comments. Oh, thank you, Sasha. I appreciate that a lot. For Mother of Nerdling's earlier comment to plug my book. Let's see if this will post here. I don't know if I can post links. It doesn't look clickable on my end, but if that pops up, that's just a link to my books page on Amazon. There's a review page there too to check out if you have any questions about it. Have I spent any time outside of Alaska? Pizza Dave wants to know. So I have never lived anywhere else in my entire life. I have been outside of Alaska a few times. The longest stretch was, I think, 12 or 13 days for a. Oh, I guess that's not true. It's that is true. Like 12 or 13 days. I've been out of Alaska 3 times for work, where I spent all of the time in Kansas City going to signal school for my career. And then I've spent some time in North Dakota on a vacation. Oh, excuse me. Minnesota is where I have a lot of family. We actually had a big family reunion this last summer, and I went down there. And then I travel. I play Magic the Gathering. That's one of my diehard hobbies. Like, I'm a very big nerd outside of sobriety and poetry. Like, I play a lot of Magic. If you're familiar with that, it's a card game from the 90s. It's a strategy game. Like, I play that a lot, and I fly to events to play that. That's what I was doing in Denver. My sobriety check-ins around day 60, 62, I think is when that was. I was in Denver competing in a big Magic tournament. But as far as spending time outside of Alaska, I've never lived anywhere else. I've lived all over Alaska, but never resided anywhere else as far as that goes. Speedy Boy wants to know, this one's a bit off topic. What's your favorite movie or show? That super hard. I have a very hard time watching new movies. I will binge the first couple episodes of a show, or the first couple episodes of a season of a show if it's new, and then it'll just die off on me. My favorite one. For the longest time, I would have told you Lion King. The original animated Lion King was my favorite movie for a very long time. But let's see. I've been watching The Godfather of Harlem. That's been a very good show. I've been very into that one recently. But favorites are hard for me. Like it changes a lot. So I have a hard time with favorites as far as that like entertainment stuff goes because it changes a lot. That 70s show is one that I've seen all the way through probably 5 or 6 times. That used to be a tradition with my dad and I when I was visiting him for the summer. We would make it a habit to watch the entirety of that 70s show. So that one's probably on my list of favorites. I did. Yeah, today was day 89. I'm not sure how to pronounce that username, and I have thought about it every time I've seen your comments. So I don't want to butcher it, but I appreciate all of the support you've shown me over the last several days, several weeks, even. Like, thank you very much. Yeah, we're here at day 89 and doing some Q&A. 90 tomorrow. That is true. Let's see. I'll put this one back up. See if there's any questions. Any more questions here? Random letters and numbers. Perfect. I appreciate the kindness that you've attached to those random letters and numbers. It means a lot to me. Very supportive. What about you, Speedy Boy? Do you have a standout favorite movie or favorite show? I kind of let you down on that answer, I feel like. So, let's see what caliber. Let's see. I think I've gotten to all the questions that I've seen so far. Do another scroll through. Oh yeah, that's a good one to bring up now that there's might be some more people here. For 100 days, is there any special ideas or videos that maybe some people want to see? So I didn't have anything planned, but that was brought up. That's a good point. Like, is something special being done for day 100? Is there anything that people would like to see? Maybe another like full length video instead of just a short? That was my first time filming a YouTube video, like specifically for YouTube, until that 1,000 subscriber video. Like, I do the shorts, just checking in and doing a little bit of editing, but that was the first time I'd gone out and set up and filmed, and it was super fun for me. It was very cool, and seeing it all come together was, I don't know, it was kind of like a milestone for me, like the milestone video, and then doing it for the first time, like that felt very good for me. So I would be all about trying to make full length or longer videos for people as well, if that's something that has interest. Daredevil's a good one. Yeah, picking out a favorite movie is super hard. Absolutely. Marvel fan, yeah. Marvel's good. I'm a big Marvel fan as well. I haven't actually seen some of the newer Marvel movies now that I think about it. But, let's see. I appreciate that. Glad when my shorts come out. I'm glad when I put them out. Thank you, Fair Cry. I appreciate the support. Awesome, John. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I wasn't sure. I can't click on it on the back end here because I'm not in the YouTube screen. I'm in StreamYard's studio right now. So if I click on it, it'll just show the link on screen here, or show the comment on screen. Thank you very much, Fair Cry. One day at a time. What was the low point that made me get sober? This is a good question. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'll go over it one more time here. I had a morning where I woke up in my camper, and all of my keys, my work boots, my tools, all of those things were where they were supposed to be, sitting on my bedside table, sitting on the little shelf by the door. My boots were on the boot dryer, like things were tucked where they're supposed to go. And I had no recollection of getting to my camper. I did not remember how I got there. I had no idea if I drove, if I got a ride. My car was outside of the camper, so I did drive, but I had no recollection of it. And I had an experience like that just a couple of months before, and it was kind of the final, I can't do this anymore. Like, my drinking and my driving was coming to a head and causing stress and drama, and not drama, stress, like stress because people care about you in my relationship and my friend groups, and I didn't give a shit. I was going to keep doing it because it was easy, it was simple. I knew what I was doing. uh, I wasn't driving very far. I had all the excuses like just rolled up, and I had said them so many times. But that morning when I woke up and everything was where it was supposed to be, and I had no idea how I got to my camper, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like that, I felt that guilt ball up in my stomach like a rock, and it sat there all day while I was at work. Uh, all day. I mean, just ate away at me. I wrote a poem about it during the day. When I got off work, I sat in my work truck and I grabbed my notebook and I wrote a letter to myself, um, talking about like sober me to drunk me. And it's kind of ironic or it's stereotyped or whatever, but like write a letter to your drunk you or write a letter to your sober self is something that I've given as feedback, that people have given me as feedback. And I did it. I followed through on it. And I wasn't nice to myself. I wrote everything that I wanted to achieve and how alcohol was stopping me from doing that, and how bad it was and all the shit that had happened in my life as a result of it. And I'm glad that I didn't hurt anybody. I'm glad that no one was injured in either of my incidents like that. But that was my low point. Where it's like I need to change something. And anyway, that letter I wrote, I taped to the top of a case of beer that I had in my camper that I knew about. And before I was going to drink a beer out of that case, I was going to read that letter and still want it. And I made it the first 6 7 days without wanting it after I read that letter. And on day 8, I started posting these sobriety check-ins, and I was so happy in that first video. Like I had the stupidest, biggest smile. It's like I'm 8 days sober today, and I wanted to share that with the world. And it was like that was so much emotions for such a small act that I just haven't looked back. Like I've looked back. That's not fair. But that's the low point. Like that first week, the letter, the not remembering how I got home, the knowing that I had disappointed my partner, disappointed my friends, like and the people that I was hanging out with at the bar that knew I was that way and let me leave. It's like, okay. It's so normalized in society that drunk driving, like you get small town people and it's like, oh yeah, like he's only got a mile and a half to go. It's like, yeah, I understand that. And it might be a straight road and there's all the excuses you can make, but if you're going to let somebody get behind the wheel and you know that they're blacked out, then you're not I don't think you're a very good friend. I mean, I have done that to people and I have not been a very good friend to people in the past. And I've seen people make mistakes and I won't do that now. If I'm in a situation where I see somebody doing that, I will step up and I will speak out and I will offer to give them a ride. I'll offer to drive their car. I've done that in the last couple of months too. I've given a lot of people, well, a lot, four people home rides home because I was hanging out having dinner or whatever and I wasn't drinking and they were having a bad time. So I gave them a ride home. And it's yeah. I'm kind of rambling now, but that was the low point for me that made me realize that something needed to change. I'm glad I made it home safe that night too. The new Shogun. I haven't started watching that. It's not one that I've seen before. Did I only? Oh, Pizza Dave asked, did I only use alcohol? So no. Most recently, what I'm checking in about is alcohol. Yes, but I had a problem with stims, Coke, Ritalin, Adderall. Like I don't know if I'm allowed to say these things on YouTube, but I did anything that would keep me awake, keep me going. Like I used to have a very bad problem with insomnia, falling asleep. Like I have anxiety about various things that make me not want to go to sleep. Uh, so I did a lot of hard drugs from 2014 to 2016. Um, well, earlier, 2011. I was in high school when I started doing Ritalin and Adderall, and it wasn't mine. I used those I guess 2011 to 2016. I was using almost every day with that shit, and it's not a good way to be. Um, ended up Ended up down in a pretty dark spot with meth. That was my wake up call for that. I got sober. I got clean, I guess. So the difference with sober and clean to me is a weird terminology, but I got clean from those, and I had a relapse with that shit in 2018, the night of my DUI with alcohol, and I was in a pretty bad place. I was already at the bar, I was already drinking, and I was offered, I was propositioned, and I ended up partaking, and got that was the night of my DUI, and I kind of lost that I had done that stuff in the drunkenness. But yeah, I have not only done alcohol, and I used to have a very bad problem with stimulants. Alcohol has been a harder thing to walk away from over the years. Like, quit for a few days, but you always go back to it. I have not once since that relapse night wanted to go back to using stims. I have no desire to do that stuff to my body. Like, I've seen it. I've seen it destroy some of my family's lives, and I'm not about that shit anymore. I've cut my own family members out of my life because they won't put it down, and it's hard. It's super hard to do. Let's see. Making the first step is the hardest. So glad you decided to tackle it and fight this battle. Struggling with depression at the moment. Reached out to people about it for the first time in January. That is an awesome first step, Faircry. Like, depression is something that has plagued me for a lot of my life, and the hardest thing to do for me was to talk about it, because it's so. My experience with depression and being depressed is people turn it into a competition. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time. It's like, oh, it's not that bad. I've got X issue. It's like, that's not what I wanted from you right now. I wanted to talk about how I was feeling and get it into the world, and maybe get some help or get some back and forth. But people, in my experience, have turned depression into a competition, and I'm super proud of you for taking that first step. Like, reaching out to someone was my hardest first step, and one of the biggest things that I've done or learned from, like, therapy. I haven't been in therapy in many years now, but when I was in therapy in 2019, it was one of the things that I learned was to try to make that connection and process how I'm feeling and maybe talk about it with somebody else. So I'm proud of you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, Pizza Dave, I agree wholeheartedly. Alcohol has been the most difficult for me to give up. Absolutely. Let's see. I love small town life. I'm assuming you work a blue collar job. Thank you for making the world go round. Is that sort of environment hard to be sober in, or you find supportive friends in? It is a mixed bag. It's very difficult being a blue collar worker. Having substance abuse issues is kind of steeped into the environment, or in the culture of it, for me, like, from my experience anyway. And I've met people that have worked it since they were 18. They've never drank, they've never used drugs, and there's other people that are actively using at work, and those are the people that you have to count on for your safety in some very sketchy situations. So I am fortunate enough that I work alone while I'm at work, and I can process a lot of my cravings and my urges by myself, and that's how I process that way anyway. I withdraw into myself and do a lot of internalizing before I process. So processing cravings and urges has been easier because of the nature of my job. But yeah, I work blue collar. I'm a union worker. I work for the Alaska Railroad as a signal maintenance technician. But Psych Tyson says, I was too drunk to let my less drunk pal drive me and my girl home. She started calling me for letting someone else drive my truck and broke up with me a couple of days after. That's unfortunate, Psych Tyson, and I'm sorry that your decision has led to some probably emotional hurt in your life. But I don't necessarily think that someone that breaks up with you because you were trying to make a thoughtful decision about your well-being and her well-being, I don't think that's really that big of a loss. And I don't know the situation. I don't know you two. So take that with a grain of salt. But if someone wants to break up with me because I won't drunk drive, and I want someone else to drive my truck because I'm too screwed up, and they want to be reductive of me or reduce my emotional state because of that, that's not, you're not losing anything there. Alcohol is one of the few drugs that can kill you. Stop. I work in a hospital. The ICU nurses say alcohol and Xanax are the worst when people quit them. Yeah, that's true. Your body becomes so used to that. I don't actually yeah. I've got a very close relationship to watching what happens to somebody's body when they stop drinking after they've been drinking for 35 years, and it's not fun to see someone with that kind of dependency. And I know that they make drugs that are supposed to help alleviate and assist, but yeah, a lot of times if you are in that kind of a way and you quit cold turkey, it can do some serious damage to your life, to your body. Your body will have such a shock to the system. Yeah, absolutely. I would like to think it's a safe space as well, John. I'm trying to cultivate that with my page, and I want people to be able to reach out and talk and have support. One of the overarching goals of my content being on here is I want anyone who's struggling with substance abuse or mental health, depression, alcoholism, like whatever it is, like you're not alone. You're not alone with any of that. There are people to talk to. There are resources available. You do not have to do this alone. I want someone who needs to hear that to see it, because I needed to hear it at some point and I didn't. I needed to find that out. And if I can convince one person that they're not alone, then it's worth everything that I'm doing. Seriously. Let's see. Yeah. Life does go on one day at a time. It's true, Psych. Faircry says, also, can I just say, you have a really soothing voice. Like, it sounds very pleasant. Have I ever considered doing voiceover stuff? No, I have never considered doing voiceover stuff. I actually despise the way my voice sounds on recordings. I have my headphones on, so I can't really hear myself talking right now. But I get very self-conscious about my voice. I don't necessarily enjoy it to listen to it back. But I appreciate that. You're very kind. I think it's probably I won't be reductive of what you said. Thank you for your compliment. I think the background music has a lot to do with the soothingness of this right now, but I appreciate you a lot. Pizza Dave, how hard is it to find treatment where I'm at? We have a lot of counseling centers. Inpatient stuff is a little bit harder, but I've never had to do inpatient, but I've had family members that have, and it's harder to stay with inpatient care. A lot of the major facilities, you'll end up getting sent out of state because of the community and the nature of our medical facilities. Things are usually pushed to their limits. So if you have any kind of an issue or you need to 30 days in rehab, you'll probably do those in Seattle or in Washington somewhere, versus where I'm at least from my experience. Speedy Boy says, agreed. I would pay to have him narrate an audiobook. Man, you guys are gonna make me cheese here. You guys are so nice. Thank you very much. It is hard. The one day at a time is very hard, Faircry, and I think that knowing that you can do one day, you can do another one day and another one day. You got to just make it through that first day. Like I said in the earlier comment, I'm super proud of you for reaching out and seeking the things that you need. I think that's a very big first step. I hope that you're proud of yourself too. Let's see if I missed anything. Let's see. Oh, absolutely. Yes, having friends to hold on to, like having a good support system helps a lot. I've been very fortunate in that regard. I have a very consistent, small group of friends that we associate every weekend for the most part, unless I get called into work. And then I think they hang out anyway, even if I'm not there. But we've been playing Dungeons and Dragons together for almost 3 years at this point with the same group of people. And when we weren't doing that, we were playing other games together. We used to go out to the bars together and socialize that way, but it's kind of become this hang out at the house, take comfort in the friend group, and they all have basically quit drinking a lot sooner than I did. Not quit, but they never got into it the way that I did, and it was never a problem for them. It was just a thing we do on the weekend, and for me, it wasn't. So it's been nice to have that support system to fall back on. Let's see. Mary R says, I'm sorry if I missed this question. If it was asked, I just joined. Do you have AA meetings you can attend, or do I have a sponsor? I don't go to AA. I had a very scathing experience with AA when I was first trying to get sober, shortly after I ended going to therapy in 2019. I actually wrote a poem about it, but it was a very demeaning experience for me when I went to my first meeting. It came up in conversation that I wasn't religious, that I didn't have any interest in the religious perspective of the meeting, and as a result of that, I was attacked and talked down to, and basically uh, told that I wasn't human. I wasn't treated like I was a human being anymore after that. So I stopped going to meetings. I went to a few one-on-one therapy sessions after that, but I don't go to AA, and I didn't have like a sober sponsor. I've told the story a couple of times on the stream today, but I wrote myself a letter that acted as my sponsor, and it worked for me to get through the first week. And I have gone back and read it a few times over the past few months. But I wrote myself a letter talking about all of the things I wanted to achieve, and how much alcohol had taken away from me, and how destructive it was to my life, and how much I hated myself after drinking. And every time I wanted to have a drink, I had taped that letter to the top of a case of beer that I had in my camper. And anytime I wanted a beer, I read that letter. And if I told myself if I still wanted to drink after I read that letter, I could have it. And I never wanted to. So I used that letter as a sponsor for the first little while. And I had gone back and read it a few times since then. Hi, Hattie. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. My class in D&D, I am the forever DM. I run the game. We've been playing in my world. It's a homebrew world for 5 years, give or take a little bit of time. And that I've played almost every class, but I have been the forever DM for a long time in my D&D group. Let's see. Faircry says, I tend to isolate myself, and it's really difficult not to withdraw. I've been doing so for quite a while, but I'm fighting it. I have a similar issue, a similar thing that I do. I won't call it an issue, because I don't think that is a thing that needs fixing. I think that we all process differently, and sometimes I internalize, I withdraw into myself, and I have to process things myself before I'm ready to process them with the presence of other people. So I think that withdrawing is not necessarily a bad thing, or a thing that you should be feeling guilty about if you are having any of those like negative thoughts. I have a lot of strength when I withdraw in and talk about it inside. So I think that it's a good thing for me anyway. And if it's something that you don't want to do, then that makes sense why you would fight it and fight through it. But I don't think that withdrawing into yourself is inherently something to feel negative towards yourself for. Just my 2 cents. Do I play Magic? I do. I actually talked about it a little while ago. I have Magic cards on my desk in front of me right now. I play webcam Magic. I play in tournaments. That's actually most of the time I leave the state is to fly to tournaments. In the last couple of years, I've flown out of state twice to go to big tournaments. But yeah, I play a lot of Magic online. A lot of my hobby and my hobby world revolves around Magic quite a bit. Oh, that's awesome. I just hit 1.5K. That's cool. Thank you, Hetty. I haven't been tracking. I I haven't had my page open except for the community post. That's cool. I definitely think that DMing is a learned skill. I don't think that anybody can just hop in and do it the first time, and I think you have to be willing to stumble through a little bit. I've been doing it for probably 7 years, and it was always the role that I was left with because no one else wanted to do it. It's like, well, okay, I'll do it. Like that, I like telling stories. I like let's tell the story together, and that's. I think that anybody can do it. You just have to be willing to do it and accept that things will be learned and things won't always go perfect. And your players are cats, and you need to herd them with a broom, and it sucks sometimes. uh, we had a little sidetrack. We played D&D last night. My group did, and we had a couple of characters perish that had been with the party for like a year and a half of real time. Like in the real world, we'd been playing with those characters for a year and a half, and they fell, and it was very emotional. There were tears all the way around my table where we were playing, and me included. It was a super emotional bonding experience that comes from this role-playing game. It's all in our imagination, but it's a very real connection you can make with people. So I think that, sorry, a little side note, it's still very fresh in my mind. So let's see, talking there, good idea. When I was in Denver, I went to it was one of the convention centers. It was like a 12-minute ride or 22-minute ride from the airport, and had an attached hotel. I was staying in the Cambria, which is just a little ways down the road from that convention center. It's like a 5-minute walk. I don't know where anything is in Denver. I didn't go explore the city. I went from the airport to the convention center and back to the airport. So, because I was only there for the weekend. I did, yeah. I played in the RC. That's what I was down there for. Let's see. I have a cat. It keeps me company. I love her so much. Made it a habit to walk my parents' dog, though. So that also helps getting me out of the house, at least for a little bit. Yeah, that's one of the side effects of having dogs. They like to be outside. So if you have them, you will usually go outside. That's cool. Let's see. It was a fun time. Yeah, it totally was. Bob Smith says, I bet you're asked this a lot, but I'm new. What are you in recovery from? So for these check-ins that I post on YouTube, the daily sobriety check-ins, I'm referring to alcohol specifically. I've been trying to get off of that for some time, but in 2016, I have been since 2016 with one relapse in 2018. So I guess since 2018, I've been clean from stims, Coke, Ritalin, Adderall, stimulants, things that keep you awake, meth, the stuff that sucks, that stuff. But for these videos, I'm talking about alcohol specifically. And it doesn't. Yeah, you can ask all you want. I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for asking the question. Oh, that's awesome. I will take a gamble here and assume you were on one of the mini Rhinos decks. Just making an assumption based on the math. Oh, I see now. Atraxigorios. That's a spicy build. Okay. I can talk about my list here a little bit. I won't. I don't think there's a lot of mesh over between Magic and the people in the chat right now, but I can send you my list. We can talk about it, or I can send it to you in a comment or link it or something. I was on Dimir Scam, which I know that won't mean anything to the majority of people here, I'm assuming. But let's see, John. I hope it's okay with everybody if I'm pulling your comments. I know that you're talking amongst yourselves here. You guys are having a very, very awesome conversation about motivations and walking your dogs, and I'm just using them as talking points. So if I am doing that and you don't want that, just feel free to say that, and I won't. No, I think walking your dog is a super solid motivation here. We have a fenced yard behind the house, and the dogs get to spend a lot of time out there when it's warm. When it's super cold, it's a little bit harder because Aegis has very short hair. So when it's 20 below, 30 below, he can't go out longer than he takes to do his business and come back in the house. I appreciate you, Hattie. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I'm trying to get away from alcohol. It's not easy, Bob. And I know that you said that you're new here, and I want you to know that you're not alone trying to get away from it. And I'm not going to be the person to tell you the right way to do that or try to convince you that my way is the right way. I'm trying to share how I do it and let people that are going through sobriety and trying to get some semblance of it into their lives that they're not alone. You don't have to sit with the abuse, you don't have to sit with the substances, and you have friends and resources and people that care about your sobriety. Even though we've never met, I've never seen your face, I've never talked to you before. I want you to achieve what you want. If you're trying to get away from alcohol, I'm happy that you're here, and I hope that you find the support and a healthy space in this community. You're welcome here. Appreciate you. That's awesome. I'll have to put a little community post up next time I go to an RC, and maybe we can run into each other. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Faircry. That's a pretty vague description, though. A random bearded guy at magic events could be probably 80% of the room, from my experience. Yeah, I'm glad that you stumbled on too, Faircry. It's been nice talking to you. Um, I honestly didn't expect this stream to go nearly as well. The last couple I've done, I had maybe one or two people pop by and then take off, and this has been super nice. Like having people consistently show up and want to engage and ask questions. Like it's very awesome to me. I might try to make this a consistent thing. If that's something that people enjoy, we can just have like a Sunday hangout or a Sunday check in and talk to people. It's been very nice for me as well. So I appreciate you being here. Josh King says 66 days sober, trying to deal with my mental illness more sustainably. Alcohol was the hardest one I've ever fought. I feel that sentiment, man. Alcohol has been the hardest thing for me to walk away from in all of the things that I've had substance abuse issues with. Alcohol has been the most persistent, the most socially acceptable. It's cheap. You can walk into a grocery store and pick it up, and it's so normalized that I don't blame you. It's hard. It's very hard. And I'm proud of those 66 days. That's awesome. I hope that you're proud of yourself. Seriously. Like 66 is huge, man. It's 2 months and change. Like you're doing it. Proud of you. 80% might be a little low. That is true on the estimate. Yeah, I am a Magic player. I actually my other hat that I wear, I've started just making sure that I have the Fallout hat on when I do my check-ins and stuff, because I do wear this hat basically every day. But when I go to Magic events, I have a similar beanie, but it has a Phyrexian symbol where this little Fallout guy is instead, and that's what I rep when I'm playing Magic. A Sunday hangout sounds dope. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I will. I've enjoyed this immensely. I think I will try to make this a consistent thing, in some capacity anyway. Thank you for the kind words. I wish I could put all of my responsibilities on pause and go to a facility for a couple weeks, but the bank doesn't care if I need help or not. I'm try my best. That's yeah. It is a very difficult stage to be in when there's more bills than there are, I don't know, days. There's more demand on your time and your money and your body than maybe is easy to give. I wholeheartedly feel that. I'm in a similar financial place. Like I could potentially go for a few days, but I couldn't take a month or 30 days to go to a facility. So it just wouldn't be sustainable, and I don't think it is for the average income in a household, especially if you're trying to feed yourself or other people or pets or whatever. Like it just doesn't. It's not easy, and I think that's a very meaningful wish to have. And it's hard, it's super hard. Yeah. Alcoholism is a very sneaky, deadly disease, man. It sucks. Well, that I'm at the end of my time slot that I have kind of allotted for my day for this. We're coming up on 1:30 for me, and I've got other obligations to get to. But thank you all for being here. If there's any closing questions or closing comments, like I'll give it another minute, another 2 minutes here. But thank you for being here. I appreciate the conversation and the questions. I had a lot of fun meeting you and talking to you guys. That's awesome, Faircry, that you've been able to have the insurance and have the care to get the treatment, get the time away that you need. Like that's awesome. That's very, very good. It's one of the benefits of having a job like that. It's very cool. ECT, that's not one that I have done or seen done. Yeah. Of everyone you subscribe to on YouTube, this is the most rewarding subscription. Man, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Seriously. 24 treatments. That's if they're working, man, Josh, that's awesome. If they're working for you, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't even know that was a treatment option. That's very cool. One day at a time, Psych. I appreciate you being here as well. Awesome. Thank you for the subscription. I think that's where I'm going to end it, everybody. I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your night, afternoon, mornings, wherever you're at in the world. You're not alone with substance abuse, and I hope that that is not forgotten. I'll see you next time and see you in the next check-in. Take care.